Hey Amarillo, I'm Skylar Gallup, and you're listening to Hey Amarillo. It's the interview podcast featuring some of the most interesting people and stories of Amarillo, Texas. We record each week at the beautiful offices of Rosenbach Contractors. They're experts in high-end design and construction, creating stunning and functional spaces through both new builds and remodels. Today's guest is Dr. Jamelle Conner, president of Amarillo College, a role she's relatively new to, as well as relatively new to Amarillo. She brings great perspective, expertise, and love for the work to our conversation and community. She's a lovely woman, sharp and clear on her direction in her role, leading arguably one of the most important institutions in our city. And she's a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy. Here's Jamelle. Dr. Jamelle Conner, welcome to the Hey Amarillo podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Excited to get to know you a little bit better. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up, and what was childhood like for you?
So I grew up in St. Petersburg, Florida, and lived all my life until I went overseas and lived there for 3 years. But I've got an older brother and a younger sister, and I had a couple different cousin groups that lived on the same dead-end street. So we kind of all grew up in that time period where you got kicked out in the morning, right, to play all day during the summer and don't come back in till, the bats were out at night. So had a lot of fun there, went to school with many of them all the way through and graduated, was part of the band.
What'd you play?
Marching band. So wasn't very good, but played bass clarinet and tenor sax. So
Okay.
marching band, jazz band. So I was involved in all of that mostly during high school.
That's very fun. I did not grow up with a cousin group. They were all out of town, and I'm always deeply jealous of people that did have kind of like that band of cousins. It's really cool. It's a strong family,
Yeah, and especially because there were 4 of us. Me and my sister are only 17 months apart, and then 2 girl cousins that were also on the same street that were all within about 2 years. So we were about 2 to 3 years apart, the 4 of us growing up.
That's so fun. When you were kind of young, what were your professional aspirations? What did you think Jamelle was going to grow up and become?
Well, when I was really little, I loved whenever we would play. I loved to be the secretary, right? The one doing the numbers or doing the typing or keeping things organized. And then as I got older, I had planned on either being a writer or a child psychologist. And when I went to college, initially, my major was going to be child psychology.
That's interesting. I can relate to the secretarial. I grew up in my dad's business, and I remember using his old machines to tab out and all that. So yeah, it's very fun.
Yes.
I think it turned us into well-organized women.
I'd like to think so.
So where did you go to school?
For high school, I went to Northside Christian School. So I was there for the 4 years. It's a K through 12. My husband went there all the way through, and then our girls all went there all the way through, which was kind of crazy to have them go back and be at the same school that you were at with some of the same teachers. I think one of their 3rd grade teachers had also been my husband's 3rd grade teacher.
Oh my gosh.
That's how long those teachers stayed there.
That's amazing. So how old were you when you met your husband?
Well, I met him, I was a freshman in high school and he was a senior because we're 3 years apart. And and he was in the band, in the marching band. So I knew him and we were kind of in similar friend groups. And then I ended up going to the same college that he went to. So then I was a freshman in college. He was a senior in college. Again, just friends. And then it wasn't until after I'd graduated from college that we started dating.
Nice. So now, how long have you guys been married?
Next month will be 29 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so what school was it? What was the university that y'all both attended?
Florida Southern College.
And you studied child psych, you said?
Initially.
Yeah.
So my plan, because back then you didn't have a lot of advisors that would really kind of help you along. So, and I was kind of the first in my family really going to college and completing.
Oh, nice.
And so I thought, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in and get all my gen eds out of the way so then I could just focus on what I really want to learn. And so one of those was an accounting class. So I took my first accounting class, and the professor at the end of it was like, you missed 1 point the whole semester with everything. You really need to be an accountant. And then I took a computer information class, and then that professor was like, you're really kind of good at this, coding and all back then. So I never even hit a psychology class. I switched my major and double majored in accounting and computer information systems. So completely went sideways.
Yeah,
on a
that's so
different path.
interesting. That doesn't gel so much with the writer and child psych side of you. Was that? Do you think that was it one of those like kind of that writing, English brain, child psych stuff? It was more like aspirational, and you kind of found like what you were like what your brain was good at, or like how do you kind of put those up against each
Reconcile it.
other?
I mean, I think that is some of it was just I was good at those, and it interested me, and so got through that. But when I think back now, I'm like, it kind of makes, especially because I've only been in higher ed for the second half of my career. My first half wasn't in higher ed, and so I really think though that the passion that I had on that side, and especially from the child psychology realm, taps into the passion I have for students and what really got me so interested in higher ed and moving even from the accounting and budgeting side of the house in higher ed over to serving students is because it kind of now it meshes really well together.
Yeah, and
that way.
well-rounded, you know. I think anyone that's too far one way or too far the other is kind of like missing a whole other side. So tell me about your college experience. After you got into accounting, what was that pathway? And then as you entered the workforce?
So I was involved in college. I joined a sorority, which was again nothing that my family had any background in, but that was really good for me because I was so shy. And so it was good just from, being more self-confident, getting to know people, getting in leadership roles. I started out as treasurer, ended up being president, something I never would have thought or seen myself being able to do. And my freshman year, too, at the end of the year, it was one of those business classes. They had awards. And as a freshman, I'd gotten like a Freshman of the Year award in that area. And again, I was so quiet and shy and didn't think anybody would ever notice or see me. So that meant a lot. And so then when I was getting ready to graduate, the United States Defense Department, they'd kind of done an early out and they had a lot of retirements happening. So they were going out on college campuses to look to bring people in to actually work for them in their contracting field, Defense Contract Management Command. And so as I was doing interviews, because they brought people on campus, I interviewed with them. And that's how I ended up with my first job being negotiating and managing contracts on behalf of the Defense Department. And they were based right there in Clearwater. And so I did that and then had the opportunity to go do that same work in England for 3 years.
Okay, so
That's how I got
where-
to England.
Nice. What kind of contracts?
All types of defense contracts. So think of anything that the government uses. So I negotiated contracts for computer equipment that was needed out in some of the special commands and figuring out what they needed to have and working with the vendors to procure that. When I was in England, I was based at the Rolls-Royce plant. So they manufactured the Harrier and the Addor engines, and I was responsible for negotiating and managing those contracts and several contracts that they had across England. That contract was really large because they had components in there that were also tied up with Italy as well as France and the British with the US. We also even had one interesting contract was, if you think back then, that was like mid-90s. And so there was a contract to build containers for the Russians to dismantle their weapons. And so that was one of the contracts I was managing there. So it was really interesting.
Yeah, like a peek behind the curtain of this stuff. Yeah. And so at this stage, so you're married?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
So Martin and I dated for 5 years before we were married. So we'd been dating a few years, and then I had the opportunity to go to England. He was working on his music. We would not recommend it to anybody, but he stayed in Florida, and I went to England for 3 years. We ended up seeing each other about twice a year.
Wow.
And back then, that was where you would turn on the computer for AOL and wait and listen to that thing. I'd go make food and then come back to see if he had sent me an email or to write him an email. And phone bills were out of this world back then. And then we got engaged and we got married in a castle in Thornbury Castle in England in the last year before I moved back. And so that's pretty cool. We have some pretty cool pictures having it be in a castle.
I bet. How interesting. Yeah, you guys weren't just like FaceTiming at night, you know?
Like it is now. We talk about that. We're
Wow.
like, it would be so easy, so much easier now.
I bet that was really difficult.
It was.
And y'all went through that, and he was like, forget about this, put a ring on it, let's get married.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about the experience just like living abroad.
It was really interesting because, little things are so different. Over in England, things like plugging something in, if you blew up, you would blow up any appliances or things that you would do there. And then just, you learned what people overseas maybe think about Americans, and and then they would come up when they would be like, "Oh, you're American." They're like, we love Ponderosa. And I would just laugh that that's their vision, because they're like, there's so much food and you can have all you can eat Ponderosa. But it was also amazing to see, because Florida is large enough. I mean, not as large as Texas, but large enough that, it's 5 or 6 hours just to get out of Florida. When you're there, it was like we could jump on a train or a plane, and in an hour you're in another country. You're in Ireland, or you're in Scotland, you're in Germany, Switzerland, Sweden, and so that was really cool, because I got to kind of do little weekend jaunts. And do that. And then the time difference was crazy, because there too, in the summer in Bristol, it'll be 10 o'clock or so before it gets dark, which wasn't like that in Florida. So, and then other times it would be light at 4 o'clock in the morning. So, and I was over there when Princess Diana died. Wow. And so that, watching the country more and all through that was really kind of really interesting to be a part of and see all of that.
Yeah. How old were you in that time?
I went over, I was 25 when I first went.
So impactful, I think, in that at that young age, to go have that kind of perspective gaining experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then my youngest daughter, because she's in school right now, but she's wanting to live abroad, and she tried to convince me that straight out of the gate for college she needed to go overseas. And she's like, you did it. And I'm like, there's a big difference between 25 and 18.
And you had a job doing it.
Yep, a full-time job. I could take care of myself.
Paycheck is helpful. That's fun. Okay, so when you came back to the States, were you still with the DoD, or did you transition, or what was that?
I came back to Clearwater and was still with DoD for a little while, and then ended up moving over to Tech Data Corporation, which is a technology distribution company. So kind of moved over into a for-profit regular corporation. Yeah. Doing managing the contracts there. So back then that was the systems contracts. So Compaq, Apple, IBM, Hewlett Packard, those were what I started out, would kind of negotiate with the company on selling and distributing their computer equipment.
Yeah, and it's not, if that was mid 90s, that's like the tech kind of blooming across really the world, really. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an exciting time.
Yeah. And then I got opportunities through there. That's when I went back to school for my MBA.
Okay.
And moved over from negotiating the contracts to managing more budgets and forecasting and analysis, and then ended up running the department that managed compensation for the sales force. So, tracking spiffs, when they would have goals, and did the company meet those goals? Did the individual salespeople meet them? What then would they get in payouts or gifts or things like that as part of their work that they did? And did that during that time is when I had our 3 girls. So I walked across the stage to graduate with my MBA, and I was 8 months pregnant. So somehow I managed to finish that up with morning sickness that lasted all day long, and sitting in classes, right? Work all day, drive over to Tampa for classes, and then have to sit there very nauseous.
Yeah, gosh.
And finish that up.
What's the age gap between the 3?
So right now, the oldest is 24, middle is 23, so they're 13 months apart. And then there's 2 years between the middle and the youngest, so she just turned 21. So we had all 3 in diapers, because when we had the youngest, the oldest reverted.
Oh, gosh.
Right? Just for a little bit. So it was kind of crazy. Yeah, we had all 3 of them and going all the way through. So
when you look back at that time, I think something about having kids, and, when you're in busier times of life, you don't realize everything that you're doing at the same time. When you look back, do you remember just being hair on fire crazy woman, or does it feel pretty manageable? It's interesting how our perspectives sometimes trick us.
I definitely think it just all seems so crazy with everything going on. I was very fortunate because Martin, they had a family business. So his schedule was much more flexible than mine.
Nice.
So I was still able to, be doing things in my career, but he was there for the girls. So I would organize things. Oh, they have a doctor's appointment, or I get them involved in this. But he would take them and bring them around. So he was able to take them to school every day. The other parents, the moms, would joke about that it would be him with like the 3 little ducklings following behind him to take them to class, and he could pick them up and, right after school. And so we were really fortunate in that way. And then I'm kind of a schedule person, and so that worked really well. Like I do miss now, and it always seems so crazy. You get home from work, right, and you're trying to get dinner done and manage that, and you've got 3 little ones to bathe, and get them in their lotion and their PJs, and you have their little, time, and then they go to bed. And now I'm like, oh, you think about, I really wish I could have that back a little bit, because that was really sweet times. But at the time, you're just like, okay, they need to go to bed, because then I've got to pay bills and I've got to do this. And they were in elementary school when I went back to school for my PhD. And so that was really crazy. And again, Martin jumped in and did so much to support me there. But I would be trying to work on my papers and do my research, and then, would be sitting there doing 3rd grade spelling words, right, for the test the next day. And and I remember thinking, oh, when it's done, I will have so much free time, because I would study while one of them was doing club volleyball. So then you're sitting there at the game, the whole day of different volleyball tournaments, and you're trying to get some reading in and all that, but somehow you just fit it in and make it happen.
Yeah, that shifting of the brain. I'm like in that phase. My kids are young enough that I'll like get off this, call or something, or get out of a meeting that's like using a whole bunch of my brain power. And then it's like equally, if not more important, for me to talk through like 2nd grade spelling words, or like remember how to do fractions.
Exactly.
So how did you transition into higher education?
So when I was at Tech Data, and after we'd had the 3 girls, I was looking to still move up. But that was difficult. When you're in corporate America, you're there until your bosses are done.
Yeah.
And so there were birthday dinners I'd miss and have to call Martin, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it.
Yep.
And I just really started to think, if I'm going to not be with the girls, I want to be doing something that I think's meaningful with my time.
Totally.
And so it was a really good company, and was a hard decision. But then doors were open that gave me the opportunity to move over into St. Petersburg College, which is the community college where I was from, and kind of take all that I had been doing. And that work was managing the college-wide budgets and strategic planning and compliance and purchasing all those back office things to keep the college moving. And so that's how I moved over into that.
And did that kind of like scratch that itch of like, if I'm going to be missing time from my kiddos, I want to be working towards something that's really meaningful?
Definitely, especially for a community college, right? Because the whole mission, it's more than just, hey, somebody's just trying to learn something to get a degree. I mean, the way that we support students in a community college really changes their lives, changes their children's lives, right? Their whole families for generations to come. And it's figuring out like real issues of how to help them to be able to get this education, have their dreams, and how can they succeed, and what ways can we come along down to help them. And so to me, that's extremely meaningful work. And the girls got to kind of be a part of that, because all those years they would come with me to events and see things, and help volunteer when we would do work. And so they got to kind of grow up being a part of that too.
I think we're uniquely blessed, and I'm going to make the assumption that you agree with me, to have an incredibly impactful community college in Amarillo, with Amarillo College. And so I think that for people who are watching, for people who are watching, they recognize the generational impact that it is, that community colleges broadly, but I in my opinion, Amarillo College uniquely is, breaking down barriers, providing so much more than classes, so much more than certifications and degrees, although it is plenty of that.
Exactly.
But, there are so many people on this podcast that, whenever we dig into like, they said, and then Amarillo College met me exactly where I needed to be. And it's just, I feel so blessed to be able to, or I guess thankful, in fact, that exists in our community.
It's an incredible resource, and I love that anywhere I go, these, just like you said, folks have either gone to Amarillo College, they know someone that has, they know someone, or they've worked at Amarillo College. Everyone sees this as part of the fabric of the community. And that's part of what I looked at too. And coming is, it's not, yes, the college is important, of what type of college you want to be at, but it's also the community, right? And how that community connects with the college that I was looking for in Amarillo communities like no other that I've found.
Yeah, I mean, fabric, if not a backbone. You know what I mean? I think Amarillo College really sits in the middle of any success that this community can claim, you know? So what was your progression in Florida at the community college there?
Sure. So I started there and I was associate vice president with all of those back office areas and did that. And then especially with budgets, you know, if you want to follow any organization about what's important, follow the money.
Totally.
And so as I would be meeting with different people on their budgets and different programs and campuses, I got to be more and more interested in what was happening with the students there. So that's when I decided to go back for my PhD and do that work. And then that allowed me to move over into student affairs, which is everyone jokes about because they're kind of like, oh, right, the back office people are like, oh, you've gone to the dark side. Because, right, student affairs are, right, they're all about really serving students. And so they're not so worried about the money all the time. They want to make sure to make it happen. But I thought that was something unique I brought, moving over and getting to serve the students. But then I also had that knowledge on the background of how to do it efficiently and effectively. I was provost of a campus there for 3 years, the largest and oldest campus of the college, and had a fantastic time. I loved that job. And anytime you would get frustrated by any bureaucracy, you just kind of walk out and sit in the quad and watch students go by, say hi, and you're like, okay, this is why we do what we do, you know, and go back and do the work. And then had the opportunity to take over as VP of Student Affairs. So with that, I was over everything related to student affairs and students, as well as all the provosts that managed all the campuses. We also had a theater and we had a radio station and, you know, all that I got to kind of be a part of in managing and leading. And so really enjoyed that. I was in that role when COVID hit. So worked through all those challenges. And then as the girls were kind of getting older, started looking at what do I want to be my next? You know, am I good where I'm at, or would I be interested in moving into a presidency somewhere? And that kind of started that whole other path.
And that's how we got you.
Yes.
So how long ago, remind me are you two, God, time is so weird. Are you 3 years or no?
I am just over a year.
Okay.
Can you believe it? I know. It's hard to believe, but
know.
yep. And the end of January was a year.
Just over a year. How's it going? How do you like Amarillo? How's your you know, I know your girls are out of the house, but how has that transition been? Kind of like outside of the work stuff, which we'll get back to in a hurry.
Really easy. Like, we just fit. We love Amarillo. Martin loves Amarillo. You know, because what got me interested initially, I joined part of kind of an upcoming president's group. And as part of that work, they have you think about what type of college would you want to be president at and what type of community, because community is so important.
Yeah.
And I'd visited Amarillo probably in 2017, 2018, visited the college, and then saw a little bit. Amarillo went to a Sod Poodles game, and it just stuck with me. And so back when I was doing that work and Amarillo College wasn't even looking, there wasn't a presidency open, I was like, that's the type of place I want to be, somewhere like Amarillo. And so then when the opportunity came up, I was like, this seems like the great fit. And I brought Martin along with me for the interviews because I'm like, you got to see if I know how I think I feel about it, but is this somewhere you think you could live?
Sure.
And he fell in love with it too. And so it is hard to believe that it's only been a year because we've met so many wonderful people and everybody is just so genuinely caring and want to help out. And we enjoy everything about the space and living here. And so it's been fantastic. The girls, I really didn't expect for them to visit very much. Like, I thought I'd have really large gaps to see them. But all of them have probably visited at least 3 times so far within a year, which is
a lot.
Pretty good. And then we went back to Florida for Christmas last year to be with them. And we'd spent Thanksgiving in Boston with them last year because that's where our youngest is in college. And, you know, that's who I miss, right? Family. And that they've been able to come. And then just like we were talking about the difference from the 90s with FaceTime. And they're great because they're like, can we all get on a family FaceTime? And then, you know, to see them all interacting. And we have a group, you know, Facebook chat where we're all sending pictures of food to each other all day long. And so, and they enjoy coming here and they have their places now when they come that they want to try to make sure to hit. And so it's been really good.
Hey, Amarillo. If you've ever dreamed of a home that's not just built for now, but built for the duration, you need to know about For the Duration Homes. They're a family-owned, panhandle-based builder crafting energy-efficient and beautifully designed spaces, from custom homes to remodels to pools. What I love is their commitment to community, transparency, and treating every project like it's their own. Check out their work at ftdhomes.com or listen to their podcast. It's called The Home Innovation Show for design inspiration and building tips from right here in the Texas Panhandle. So how has the transition from the community college that you were working in Florida to Amarillo College been? I'm interested to hear some kind of like compare and contrasts of some of those, because community colleges sit so staunchly in the foundations of our communities. You see it just right there in front of you. So how's that transition? What have you learned? What's the same? What feels the same?
Well, I knew that there'd be a lot of similarities because Florida and Texas politically are pretty closely aligned.
Yeah.
And so that was good, knowing that, hey, I'm used to working in this, and I'm successful with this in Florida. I'm confident I can be successful with this in Texas. I was so excited when I started researching Texas to learn about House Bill 8 and the performance funding there and what had been implemented, because it really aligns our funding with what we should be focused on. And so it's not like you have these goals out here and then you also have to do this different work in order to get funding from the state. They're making sure that we're focused on the same thing, so it aligns really nicely when we have conversations and make decisions. So that was exciting. One of the silly things that I was like, you just don't think about needing to ask, that I didn't realize, is I get here and we started the legislative session. So I'm trying to get all up to speed on, what are the priorities for that last year's legislative session and what's happening. And people kept talking about bienniums. Well, in Florida, all this happens every year. And I kept sitting there going, some of this is kind of odd and fun. So finally, one of the presidents, I finally had to ask. And I felt so silly asking, because you would think that's something that you should look at. But with everything else I had, it never really dawned on me that it's every 2 years. So that was just kind of just a silly thing that somehow I missed, but was different. But that's interesting too, because now I'm on the legislative committee on TAC, and so we're already meeting now regularly to look at, not only while we're in the biennium, things that are popping up, but then what are we going to have be our priorities for next year when session, when everything's back in session. So there's been some learning there. But even at Texas at the state level, the other community college presidents across the state, TAC, legislators that I've met that are within our district as well, everybody is just so genuinely interested and supportive of community colleges and what we're doing. That's just been fantastic. So those are just a few of the things, I think.
Yeah, I mean the work is important. It would be odd to find someone that's like, we don't really need to worry about what our community, you know what I mean? Because y'all are it's such an important service. I want to go back to the outcomes-based funding. Can you give me an example of something that is a measurement that is tied to funding that is directly in the line of what you guys need to be doing to serve your students?
One of the biggest ones I love is where we get funding for our technical programs for students completing those certifications and those programs, because the trades are just as critical and important to the Panhandle and our community and all of Texas. And that was one thing. In Florida, there's a whole separate group that actually does the trade programs. So while the community college has workforce programs, a lot of the other things fell in the K through 12. And so I love that Amarillo College has both, and that through House Bill 8, the state is saying we value this as well, and it's important.
Yeah.
And then the way that the funding that comes from the students earning the 15 credit hours to really make that worthwhile, for us to focus on that, and then transfer, because it's not enough for, especially most students, when you look at them, a lot of them aren't planning to stop with an associate's degree, a certification, but then so few actually successfully transition and complete to the bachelor's program and complete that. And so how do we stay focused on that? And there's state funding through House Bill 8 to also encourage us to make sure that when they go walk across the stage with us, that's not the end. We still need to work to help make them successful when they move on to their next.
Yeah, and help those credits transfer. Yeah. What is the thing that you are excited the most right now that's going on at Amarillo College?
Well, we've got a lot a lot of great things that are happening that we're just on the cusp of.
Yeah.
So one, we're really kind of nearing the end of figuring out what our new strategic goals are going to be. So by the time that I was hired, we'd kind of finished that 5-year strategic plan, but the board extended it for a year, which
Nice.
I loved because it gave time for me to come in and work on where should we be headed. So I've been
Yeah.
spending the last year doing a lot of listening sessions and focus groups and getting feedback, and just listening to say, see what's kind of coming out, what different ideas are coming out. And so we're on track. We have a community forum tonight,
Yeah.
to hear from the community, and then we should be getting our new strategic goals in place by September 1. And then the other one is Badger Bound, which I'm so excited about the work and how intentionally that's been designed. When I came in, it was, well, we've got to figure out what's next after Thrive.
Yeah.
And so when we looked at it, we talked about very much how intentionally we wanted to design this. And so the way we set it up is we've expanded it now from just the AISD to all of our ISDs. So that increases access for all the students in those ISDs. And if they earn 15 credit hours with Amarillo College, then they can come to us. They have 3 years to finish their associate's degree for free. That will cover that cost. And what the model that we built to fund that is using House Bill 8 funds for what we get from those students finishing the 15 credit hours. Then we're utilizing that to then help pay, because students would apply for FAFSA, so any of the financial aid they would get, but then that would give us the funding to fill in those gaps to help offer that to students. And then the MOUs for those schools, we've really beefed those up because it's important to us to have access to students and parents in elementary school and middle school and high school, so that it's not that they're not waiting until high school to even hear about dual credit. They can be preparing for it and saying, hey, this is what I can achieve and accomplish. And we still have where a lot of our dual credit students are those students where their parents went to college, right? They just tend to know already. And what we want to do is reach what's more of our typical college student, community college student that maybe had never tried dual credit, and help them get that under their belt, get those credits so that they can have free rest of college for their associates. But then they're going to be better prepared. They're going to need less help. They'll be more self-confident when they come to us. And when I spoke to Dr. Wendler and the president of Texas Tech, I told them, and this is going to translate to you too, because we're going to have a try or transfer rate, and they're going to be better prepared when they hit your doors and ready to finish and cross the stage with you and earning their bachelor's degree. So we see this as, from K all the way through them finishing their university experience that can start just because of Badger Bound. So that's, as you can tell, I'm very excited about that program.
How common is that, like, across the United States? Is it like, yeah, most community colleges have a program like that. I just think it's so remarkable. And maybe it's because I grew up in a small town that didn't have a community college, although I was offered, dual credit as well. And it was so helpful because I don't think I would have passed a math class at WT when I was a freshman. But is this a common program?
There are several colleges across the country now that are doing, a lot of times you'll see them called Promise programs or Promise scholarships. I think a few things that are unique with ours is, one, the way we fund it, which is actually using, with House Bill 8, the state is looking for us to utilize these funds to turn around and still help our students. And so because a lot of the struggle is, how do you pay for it? And so some community colleges, right, they have to raise money and get scholarships and things like that. So it's a unique model for how we're funding it. And then also the intentionality behind saying, we're going to use this to get a stronger connection with the parents and families and the school systems, instead of just saying, come do this. We want to be a part of you in elementary and middle and high school. We want to come alongside you in this journey. So I think those things make our Amarillo College one a little bit more unique than what else you might see around the country.
Yeah, I love it. I want to go back. You talked about spending a lot of time listening to the community. What have you found the community says?
Well, tonight's the big community forum officially, where I kind of work them through their big ideas as it relates to strategic goals. I think for the community, a big thing, there's a lot of growth, new industries, really solid industries that we have here. And so they're really looking to how do we make that connection? There's so many people in our community that could come and earn a certification or a degree and really change the trajectory of their lives. And so how do we get them and have them realize, hey, come to Amarillo College, we can help you get there, and then connect their skill set that they're going to learn with us. and they're getting those jobs where we have so many companies that need this type of skilled workforce. They're hearing a lot of that. Been spending a lot of time related to the innovation outpost and kind of what makes sense for where that should head. And what we've been hearing a lot there is, although it's convenient in downtown, which is one thing for classes, but we want it to be more than just the regular classes. This needs to be, what's the up and coming. And so AI is what we're hearing a lot of. I've spoken to some business owners who are like, I don't know how to have my employees incorporate AI in their daily work. And so I'm flying them to Dallas or somewhere like that for training. And so we're hearing them and saying, hey, what can we build that's meaningful? Things like, hey, your marketing department, do you realize what they can do at, if they work for a dealership, say, for example, and what they're able to do then, and with AI, they can kind of use that to just put together their thoughts and come up with a really good marketing plan that can help them save time, kind of can create some things. It's not switching out the creativity that your marketing team, but it saves time and then helps them focus on things that are more strategic and intentional. And so helping people in the area learn those skill sets, I think, are going to be really helpful. So I'm excited for where the IO is going to be heading to.
Nice. I'm interested in a leadership position such as yours. What makes your job difficult?
I mean, I think that's the hard thing. There's so many places I want to be and so many things that I want to do, and there's only so much time. And so just trying to manage that and be strategic and trying to do that. And especially just having finished my first year, I want to do it all at once.
I'm sure.
I mean, there's challenges, and especially, moving from another state, moving to a new community and getting to know people, getting to know the way things work here. But I'm not one that I get bored. And so the idea of having a challenge and having all these new opportunities come up, that's very exciting to me. So I'm very comfortable with just like, hey, here's this, I see it as an opportunity. So let's talk about how we want this to look. And we can start moving, and we may not know where we're going to land yet, but we're going to get there, and I'm comfortable we're going to get there. So it's hard to be like, what makes it difficult? I think that's the hardest thing is for me, I get frustrated sometimes because I want to be able to do more. And I've just got to be like, hey, we're doing good, and we're going to keep moving.
Yeah. What is it that really fills your cup in this work?
People. And it's interesting because I'm an introvert, and I spend most of my time with people. So it's odd, but it's very true. At the same time, well, I do need to have that where I can kind of, build my energy back up again. It's, seeing the students walking by, making sure I say hello to them. I had a booth at Badgerama this week, which is an event that we have for students to kind of just, it's a fun thing and for them to learn and meet people around the college. I just had like random questions to ask them, and just hearing how excited they are, what they love about Amarillo College, what they love about the Amarillo community, and how positive they are about their future and where they're headed. And then, getting to know people in the community. I love that when I go into a restaurant that there's usually somebody there I know here, right? That I get to say hi to. Most of the times now when we go out to eat, we'll tend to sit at the bar area just because then we get to have conversations. I love all that. And that just, the excitement too of how boots on the ground connected Amarillo College is to the community. I mean, it's meaningful, it's impactful, all just fuels me to continue doing what we're doing.
Yeah. And what have you and your husband? You've talked about it, and I've kind of seen it from afar. What do you guys do? I know your schedule is very busy, and you wish you had more time. But it seems from afar like you prioritize not work time, which is great. So what have you guys found to do in this new place and new chapter?
Well, what I found, which is kind of interesting, because I figure, well, by the time when I'm not working, I just want to collapse, right? And binge watch shows. But what I found that works better is it's almost like, right, work hard, play hard. It's like I want to be doing things that actually make me shut off my brain, because otherwise I am literally 24/7 in this. And I think it makes me come back better, right? A little refreshed to turn off. And so we've done quite a bit of traveling because it's so exciting that here, like in an hour, you can be in another state. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you just went to Taos for the weekend, and that was like a new spot.
Yep, had never been there, so that was really cool. We love music, love concerts. So go to quite a bit of those. I mean, there's a ton that goes on here in Amarillo, but we've also traveled. We've done a music festival in Tempe, Arizona. We did another one in Dallas last year. Willie Nelson had one. And so getting around doing that, we eat out a lot, way more than we should. But we haven't had a kitchen in a year.
Oh, have you been renovating or what?
Right. So we bought the house and Martin decided, we need to go ahead and redo the kitchen, which, I mean, I loved the original cabinets, but he was right. Like you kept having to get a hammer to like get the nails back in. It was ready to be redone, but it's been a little bit of fiasco. So we have an oven and a stove and a refrigerator, but we have no running water and no countertops. And so, but that's given us a great excuse to be eating at all the different restaurants here. So that's a lot of, and there's a few. What gets a little interesting is by the time I finish up my day, because even if I have an evening event, a lot of times I don't get to eat at them.
Sure.
And so then like, okay, so where's open late enough that then we can go eat? We love Paldera Canyon. So we have annual pass there. So sometimes on Sundays, on the weekends, we just love to drive out there. So we do stay pretty busy with things, but we keep saying, we thought Amarillo would be a quiet town, but because there's stuff going on all the time, but we didn't know that. So we're like, we're going to have, different nights because we want to get back into reading and we're going to learn a different language and we're going to learn these new board games. It's like, we're hardly ever around to do that. We still get some binge watching in here and there, but always something to do.
There is, yeah. I think finally I'd be interested to hear from you in when you think about, you're wrapping up your first year of your presidency at Amarillo College. What do you think, or have you started to develop, like what your approach, what your foundation, like what kind of president you are becoming, are establishing at Amarillo College, and how do you think that will help move the college to be like an even better backbone foundation in our community?
Well, I think what I found for me is, again, people are really important. So it's important to me to really be out there and get to know everyone and understand different perspectives. I want to keep learning. There's so many businesses still I haven't visited that I just want to see what they do, because that'll help me, right? Because you never know when, you hear one thing when you talk to one person and then some other idea comes up and you're like, hey, this could work. There's something there that we can connect with. I think, somewhat of what I bring with my background is I've got the strong financial and organizational skills, strategic planning. And so I'm trying to be really intentional as we're moving forward to not have everybody, it's really easy to keep adding things on, and that's natural. But for the college family, as well as just for where we're headed as an institution, it's going to be important to say, hey, this is our gold star. This is where we're heading to, and this is what we want to do. And we need to stay focused on that. And so how are we going to be tracking it? How do we know if we're doing well? Let's pilot something and give it a shot. And it's not failure, but we're going to learn more. And let's talk about what things, even though this is a great meeting you guys like to have every month, but you've got a million other things to do. So let's be brave enough to say, hey, it's good, but that's not what we're focusing on right now. And so I'm hoping that those types of skill sets and just being in the middle of all of this and working with everyone on from the, I can go down into the details, and then I can also stay very high level and strategic. And I love moving up and down within that. It's very natural to me, that those are all kind of positive things that I bring that are going to help us move forward greatly in our next chapter. So I'm excited.
Does your marketing feel like a shot in the dark? Are your social media posts getting lost in the scroll? Unlock your business's potential with SKP Creative. They know your audience and design posts that reflect your brand and drive real engagement. From scroll-stopping social media content to powerful traditional marketing, graphic design, and website development, SKP Creative covers it all. Are you ready to elevate your feed and turn your marketing into a success story? Visit skpcreative.com today. Okay, I'm back with Dr. Jamelle Conner. This is the part of the show I call 8 Straight. I've got 8 fast ones for you, and I normally wait for a new-to-towner so that you have enough time to, really feel out your questions, and I think solidly you have.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. When you think of Amarillo 10 years from now, what do you hope for?
What I hope for, I see so much potential and see where Amarillo is looking to grow, and it's such a strength throughout the Texas Panhandle. My hope is that with all that growth, that Amarillo does all that and still maintains the level of community and caring that you really feel here.
I think that sentiment is widely felt. Like, let's grow and let's get bigger and improve, but like, let's keep our heart.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. When was the last time you went to Paladora Canyon?
Well, we tried to go Easter weekend, and it was so, to try to get in was so backed up, we ended up turning around. But we had been probably a few weeks before that and just driven through. And we always, even when we end up not going in, we always have to stop at Sad Monkey because I love the food there.
Yeah.
And they have great live music.
Everything.
And so,
It's so good.
yes. So even if something were to happen that we can't do much in the canyon, we get to hang out at Sad Monkey for a little bit too.
Nice.
And we're going to go, because we bought a little trailer since we moved here. So last year we'd stayed in the cow cabins down at the bottom
Yes.
of the canyon. So I think it's in June I got us reservations, and we're going to do our first camping in the trailer there.
That's
and
so
can't
sweet.
wait. Yeah.
And also a really good tip that it's not always been the case. Like just a couple years ago, I could grab the boys and we could go out and camp. Now you have to make reservations or they're sold out.
Mm-hmm. I was surprised how many months ahead that you have to go to look, but now I know what we need to look for, so I can get us out there. Yep.
I love that y'all got an Airstream. Those are so cute.
We had them. We got our first one shortly after we got married, and then we had them all through raising the girls. But then once they got busy right in high school and things, they weren't going off camping, so we'd sold them. So yeah, when we got here and started seeing all the great places we could go, we're like, hey, let's get a trailer and start camping again.
That's super sweet. Other than wind, what does this area have too much of?
Spiders.
Oh, that's a first for me on that answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, just last week, I was up really early in the morning, and I was still it was still dark, and I just had my phone on, scrolling through, and I see come down from my neck.
Oh no.
Yes. The howls and Martin had gotten up before me, so he was in the other room, and I didn't know at the time, but he had his noise canceling headphones on, so he didn't hear me. The howling, and I was worried it was in my hair.
Of course.
And then going through all the sheets, and I couldn't find it, and then I was getting ready to get back in bed, and I was putting the sheets all back on, and then it came out.
Oh, I'm itchy now.
It's dead. But last year
That's
too,
like a set your bed on fire situation.
right? And I've been waiting because last year, shortly after we moved in the house, and I think it was about the same time of year, we get a lot of spiders. And I'd gotten to where, I got up one night and literally when I turned on the bathroom light, there were two of them and so now I know that when we hit fall and winter, that kind of goes away, which is nice. And I dealt with the whole the tarantula march.
Oh, yes.
Thing.
Yes.
But that was people told me that was actually kind of cool, and it was because they weren't in my bedroom.
I like them.
But yes, the spider thing's a little crazy. We're used to alligators in Florida and roaches, but there's a lot of spiders here.
That's good perspective. I didn't know that. Oh, I'm so sorry. That would be very upsetting. Okay, what does this area not have enough of?
Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind is the length of your on and off ramps on the interstate.
Okay.
They are so short. We're this is survival of the fittest out here in Texas. It's
Merge.
just there's the exit, right? Yeah, and you get on and you just better go, have confidence to go. And so we laughed about that so much when we first moved here, we're there's no easing into it. It's you either know where you're going or you don't, and you're either going to survive in Texas or you don't, especially at the 75-mile-an-hour speed limits.
Yes. The one that blows my mind is that we have access roads, sometimes, not all the times, that are two ways.
Yes.
I grew up here, but that's unsafe.
We didn't know what to do. We were like, are you serious? And that we usually have to show people when they come visit. Yeah, look at this. This is a real thing that they have here.
And pay attention.
But I think that's part of what keeps Amarillo people young. You gotta, that and the weather. You gotta stay on your toes because everyone here looks so young. It's just crazy how active and everything everybody is. So maybe I'll adopt some of that the longer I'm here.
That's wonderful. What is your favorite local building that you've stumbled across thus far?
So my favorite, but I haven't actually seen it yet,
Oh.
but I'm hoping I'm going to. So what?
No, I'm just hoping I
Okay.
know your answer. Go ahead.
We are huge Frank Lloyd Wright fans.
Yes, it is. That's what I thought too.
Because where we went to college, Florida Southern College, that Frank Lloyd Wright designed that. That was when we both first started to learn about. They've got the most buildings there.
I'm a Frank
in
Lloyd Wright
Lakeland.
person too, so
And so
I'm with you.
when we were traveling with the girls, like we took them up, but they were probably maybe middle school to Falling Water. We've been to both the Taliesin's, like we love all that. And so we never thought in a million years we move here and we're like minutes from where we live.
know.
So I've seen the articles with the pictures, but I'm hoping at some point that we get to go out and actually see it. Like thrilled.
Yes, I didn't know that there was a Frank Lloyd Wright house here until like 2 years ago. And I am also kind of trying to needle my way in somehow. I love that you like Frank Lloyd Wright. What's your favorite local restaurant?
So we do eat out a lot.
Yeah, you've tried a lot of them.
Yep. If you ask Martin, he will say wherever he ate last. Because
That's lovely.
it's all right. The food's all good everywhere. I will say the last 2 nights we've actually been back. We've been to OHMS 2 nights in a row. We just love that place. And Mac Joe's, that's
Yep.
another one lately. And again, the bar area, just love to sit in there, but the food's fantastic. So I would say maybe those 2 right now are the ones we tend to be going to now.
Yeah, it's good food. Okay, you have 4 hours to spend in Amarillo with someone who's not been here before. What are you doing?
Well, that happens a lot with us
Yeah,
as
yeah.
we've had people visit and we're like, what can we cram in? Because usually they're only here for a couple of days. So I would say Paldura Canyon, love to have them and get some food at Sad Monkey.
Yes.
They all want to see Cadillac Ranch. Love to drive them down. So a lot of this, they're going to be eating food the whole 4 hours.
I love that.
Go down Route 66, eat at Golden Light. Got to get a burger from Golden Light. And then you got to go to the Big Texan.
Do you?
A ton. We love the Big.
Okay.
Okay. And of course, everyone's heard about it that hasn't been here.
Yes.
We were not going to go there when we first moved because we're like, we're not going to be tourists. We want to be like locals. But our realtor, her husband is the brewmaster. So once she told us that, we're like, oh, we have to go and try it. And we love it. We get the big tomahawk,
Yes.
which is massive.
Yes,
and
it is.
I think it's maybe $85 or something. In Florida, that'd be a $200 steak.
Wow.
No lie. And it's so good. And then we take it home and we eat on it for days after. But we love talking to the musicians that come around. We usually have a conversation with them. And so we'd take people there and then they love to watch someone try to do the steak challenge
Yes.
before they head out of town.
Wonderful. Finally, what do you think people get wrong about Amarillo?
I'm always surprised here how many local people I talk to and their immediate response when they found out that I moved from Florida, they're like, why would you want to move here? And I'm like, I don't understand what they're missing, you know? And maybe it's just because you've always had it. But again, it's beautiful here. There's so much to do, both outdoor activities and indoor activities. There's always something going on. I mean, I think Comic-Cons this weekend, we've gone to some of the different Comic-Cons. There's a symphony and the orchestra. There's great concerts. We went to Goth Prom and had like a blast. There's just always plays and, activities to do here. And I'm like, and the people are like no other. And when you go to restaurants, the food is fantastic. And so that's
And
an
not
interesting
$200.
thing. Yeah.
It's affordable.
And it's just interesting to me that, some folks here just, I think they don't realize, but then I always hear about the ones that they leave and then they come back, right? Especially to raise their families, they realize. And so Amarillo is spectacular. And I just think some people, maybe just because you're used to it, you don't realize what a gem you have here.
You're so much kinder than I am about that because I'm like, shut up, quit complaining. It's lovely here. You're making this worse. You're kinder about that. Okay, Jamelle, the last thing I like to do is to offer my guests the opportunity to endorse something. If a listener doesn't know about, hasn't tried, what would you endorse?
I would say what people may not know about. So at the college, every summer we have June Jazz nights, right? So every Tuesday, and I mean, that was so cool to be a part of last year for the first time. I mean, there's literally over 1,000 people come out, and that shows the true community of Amarillo, and they're beautiful nights. And the musicianship here is second to none. And Martin's Martin's a musician and trying to get back in, and he was like, this is intimidating. Everybody here is just so naturally good. But, you sit out with your chairs and kind of hang out and listen to the music. But the other piece of it is our cafe, Travis and his team make amazing food. And they have these mac and cheese bowls with different types of toppings that you can get. And so just come out and then, you got a little bit of a line. I think they're even doing DoorDash now for some of it because their food's fantastic.
Cool.
But yeah, so you can come and get some really fantastic food and then just sit and listen to some great jazz music.
They are the most beautiful evenings. It's so family friendly. Kids run around.
Yep, you see everybody from all areas that are there just hanging out together. I love it. And bring out their dogs and all that. It's really cool nights.
Wonderful. Dr. Conner, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. And welcome to Amarillo, even though you're not that new anymore. And thank you for your work at Amarillo College.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's been really fun.
And that concludes the episode. Thanks to Dr. Conner for the interview. Thank you to For the Duration Homes and SKP Creative for supporting the podcast, and to Broderick Adams for editing every week. And thank you for listening. This has been episode 446 of Hey Amarillo. I am Skylar Gallup, and we hope you'll come back next week.